Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2017 luncheon for the first-year students entering the I.H. Asper School of Business at the University of Manitoba. My name is Paul Soubrey, and I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of New Flyer and of Motor Coach Industries here in Winnipeg. And like you will, I graduated from this wonderful institution in 1984. Now that's, I'll save you the math, that's 33 years ago. And of course, everything now gets to be printed at 20-point font, and my phone has to have the light on it and that stuff, so you're looking at your future. I've already been working with your student association leadership team and many of the members of the squad, and I guarantee you, you're in great hands. You have some really good people that fundamentally care about the school and about your experience and about making sure that you leave Asper with an absolute 2 thumbs up. So a little bit about today. Thank you for coming. Not everybody in their first year comes, but it is a big deal. It's very exciting for us as members of the business community and as the larger group in the city and the faculty and so forth. And the purpose of today is to embed an element of symbolism and ceremony as part of your orientation into this year's incoming class of commerce students. The event marks a very important milestone in your lives because you're no longer a high school student. In some cases, some of you have already done some university or post-secondary education, but you've chosen to come to this school. And probably just as important, we've chosen to ask you to come to this school. And as you know, it's not easy to get into commerce. In 1984, it was really easy, which is how I got in. And the only advice as your MC today that I'm going to give you is that it truly is a scenario where you're going to get out of these next 4 or 5 or 6 or however long it takes you to get it experience. You'll only get out of it what you put into it, and you got to get in the game and you got to get engaged. And keep this statement in the back of your mind, because somebody told me this many years ago, and I think it's really appropriate. Yes, you're at university, and yes, you're at Asper to get a degree, but more importantly, you're here to get an education. And that's in school, that's in studies, that's in extracurricular, that's in how people work and engage, that's how math works, the business works in the community, and so forth. And so your next chapter is about an education, not just that degree. Now, today you're going to be welcomed, and you probably already have been at your table, by members of our faculty and staff and students of Asper. You'll be welcomed by some young associates and some associates. Now, you may ask what an associate is. And the associate was founded 35 years ago here in Manitoba by a group of Manitoba leaders who wanted to be able to provide input, connectivity, and support for the university. And so the business leaders today work together with the dean to inspire and enable business excellence in education, attracting resources, providing influence and support for that for the Asper School of Business. And it sounds simple, hard to put together, hard to maintain for so many years, but it is the only organization and the only community connectivity like that in the country. And so we are the envy of many business schools across Canada and the United States for having events like this, but also that relationship with the associates. And as you can imagine, the young associates is exactly the same thing, but obviously a younger group of people. And often on your 40th birthday, you get a phone call that say you've gone from a young associate to now associates, and your fee has gone up. Since 1995, the Aboriginal Business Education Partners, or ABEP, recently renamed IBEP, the Indigenous Business Education Partners, has provided community for Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit business students at the Asper School of Business. IBEP has partnered with 144 graduates to date and has a current enrollment of 56 students. Now, last year marked a significant addition to the representation of our Indigenous students with the creation of a new position on the Commerce Students Association Council. Kieran Saindon is the 2017-18 representative and the president of the University of Manitoba Indigenous Commerce Students Association. Kieran is a Métis from St. Anne, Manitoba, and formerly the president of the Métis University Students Association at the University of Manitoba. Please welcome Kieran to give the traditional lands acknowledgement.
Thank you, Paul. My name's Kieran. I'm from St. Anne, as Paul had said, and I'm this year's U of M Indigenous representative. Sorry, CSA Indigenous representative. I'm president of UMIX, and for those of you who don't know, and all the new students in the crowd, UMIX is the student arm of the Indigenous people for the Asper School of Business. We do a lot of stuff around the campus and around the CSA and in Asper, and we like to promote Indigenous culture and history and heritage and have a lot of fun. Peter Palmart, who's at table 42, I think, there he is. He is the director of the Indigenous Business Education Partners, and I work a lot with him, and he's a great guy. And he is another resource that's extremely important for Indigenous students in Asper. For any Indigenous students in the crowd right now, he's the guy you want to see once you start school, if you haven't already started school. They provide tutoring, they provide a person to talk to in the hallway, they provide friendly faces, and they're just a fantastic resource overall. Now, today I'm going to do the traditional lands acknowledgement, and then I'm going to explain its significance to me and why it's significant to the university as a whole. The University of Manitoba campuses are located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories, we acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Now, to explain why this is important, I may have to do a little bit of a history lesson for you guys. And I know you guys are going to get a lot of that when school starts, but just bear with me. A long time ago, colonials came from Europe to create relationships and trade and meet people from what would become Canada. And eventually, residential schools were formed. And residential schools had a very negative impact on what would become Canada. Many students who went there were Indigenous, and many were taken forcibly from their families. And obviously, this was not fantastic. Now, this was over 100 years ago, and some of you may think, why is this important? This is long history past. And to explain, I have a quick story. Last year, I ran the Métis University Students Association, and on one of our outings, I volunteered with a few other members. And at the end of our event, one of the students was offered a sash to take home. And she refused to take it, saying that she wasn't Métis enough to wear it. And to me, that's troublesome and very sad, because her family has been here for generations and generations in Manitoba. And to say that you don't deserve a piece of your own culture greatly saddens me. Now, that's just one example of how the residential schools negatively impacted Canada, because it rolls forward generation to generation. And that's an example of what me, as Indigenous representative on the CSA and as president of UMIX, and what Peter and what every other Indigenous person in a leadership position is trying to fix. Now, today I have a call to action for you all. I call you all, and especially the new students, to make a point of coming to one of UMIX's events, or MUSE's events, the Métis University Students Association, or the Indigenous, any other Indigenous student group on campus, and to gain a bit of appreciation for our culture and our history and what we can offer you. Thank you.